Tell us a little bit about your business, what you all do, and tell us about yourself.
So, Detection Security Company was established in 1975 by my dad. It's a great story, so I just kind of have to tell you about it. So, he was working as a police officer in Newton, Illinois, and he saw this need. He was a beat cop, and he had to walk around to the different stores, check in on them, make sure the doors were locked and everything. And he realized, there's an electronic way to do this. And so right from his kitchen table, he was building components and pieces and parts and installed his very first alarm system right there. And so, then he eventually came to Mattoon, and he was a police officer here, and he really started a bigger version of the business. So that was kind of how we got off the ground, and that was his baby for 45 years. And then when he passed away 2 years ago, I inherited that big baby. So now she's mine, and we've been just making some changes and turning the ship, so to speak.
Yeah, that's interesting. I literally either drive or run by your business every single day of my life,
Yes.
multiple times, because it's right next to my house, and I've always wondered what you do. So. What do you do? Who are your customers? I guess would be the first question.
So, we started out serving more of a residential market. So thinking about if you need a security system in your home or a fire detection system, we started out there and with some smaller businesses, and this was, early on. But as the years have gone on, that residential market still is very important to us, but we really have hit about 75% commercial and large industrial. So we work with a lot of hospitals, doctors' offices, schools, Fortune 50 companies, Fortune 500 companies. But then, we have that aspect, but at the same time, we give just as much focus to our residential customers as well, because, that's how we started, and, that's important too. I personally, I look at the aspect that, we're here to provide this service to protect people and their assets. Mm-hmm. And our greatest asset, of course, is our family and our homes. And so I definitely have a soft spot for that residential side of things. But so pretty much anybody. We do the big, the small, and everything in between.
Is there a certain region that you focus on? Is it like worldwide, or is
No.
it just Illinois, or is it just this part of Illinois? Where you guys help?
So we stay south of I-80 for the most part, and we will go over into Indiana, about Terre Haute area, and then a little bit into Missouri and down to the southern tip of Illinois. So we kind of have just the bigger chunk of Illinois and a little bit of Indiana and Missouri.
Okay. So you mentioned protecting. What kind of protection do you offer? Is it just burglary? That's a hard word to say, by the way. Burglary protection, or is it what are the types of things that you do?
Sure. Okay, so we do the basic burglar alarms. Any kind of security type thing that you could think of. And fire, of course. Mm-hmm. But we have a lot of other things that we do as well. So if you think about when you go into a school or maybe to a hospital and you have to have those access cards and those card readers that you swipe or you tap up against a reader, we do those. We're in banks. So if you think about the... you watch a movie and you see somebody tap the button under the desk, the silent alarm. So that's us. We do those kinds of things as well. We do a big camera service, so a lot of closed circuit television. We have the personal medical alert. So if you remember that Help I've Fallen and I Can't Get Up commercial.
Who does not remember that?
Right?
Yeah, my kids don't, but that, yeah.
That's the best way to explain it, though. Yeah. So we do things like that. You name it. If it's anything to do with access and security, that's going to be us.
Okay. Where is the business located? I know this because I've already said that I drive by it on my way home all the time, but where's the business located?
So we are at 2800 Marshall Avenue here in Mattoon. It's kind of over by the high school for anybody who's not super familiar.
Yeah. Can you give us a rough estimate of, I guess you're in all kinds of different things. So I was going to say, how much does it typically cost But let's say a typical family home, like a nicer home. Like what is a range for what someone could expect if they were to call you?
So that is a super difficult question because we really pride ourselves on customized systems. So we are not cookie cutter. We are not just popping a package out of the box and saying, here's what you get. Mm-hmm. So just over the course of, somebody calling in, we have a salesperson that goes and comes and meets with you and says, all right, what do you need? What do you really need? And so then the system is customized. So it would be kind of difficult to put a dollar value on that, but I would say, a typical family home with a front door and a back door and, some things like that, mm-hmm. you could start at a few $100s, but definitely the sky's the limit on the things that you want. It just goes up with all the different things that you want to add. And for some people, some things are more important than others. Yeah. So unfortunately, no two are the same, and I can't give you just a good ballpark on that because it's so different.
I totally understand that. Like we do a lot of apps in our business, and people always say, how much does it cost? And I was like, I'm not telling you until we sit down and right. actually have a blueprint for what we're going to make. And some people don't like that, but that's the nature of custom work, right?
Absolutely.
So what are some misconceptions that people might have about the security business, the alarm business?
Well, I think, with your question, what all do we do? I think people get hung up and think, oh, well, only a burglar alarm system or only a fire alarm system. And there's really so much more. I mean, we even go so far, we do GPS tracking on vehicles. And that's just not something that you think of. Mm-hmm. So I guess really the scope of the things that we do. And also we've had people say, oh, well, I thought you were only in industrial settings and I didn't know you would come to my house. So I guess those would just be some of the misconceptions.
Okay. So you took over the business a couple years ago. You said mm-hmm. your father passed away.
Yeah.
How's that been going?
Well, my father passed on February 1st, and then COVID. So, that was a crazy time. It was, I think we had 6 weeks of mourning and mm-hmm. trying to figure out, okay, how do we move this forward or move this in a different direction? And then COVID hit. And so all of the tentative plans that we had made just went out the window, and we had to now just figure out how to survive in this crazy COVID-19 atmosphere.
Was that really hard? I know it was really hard on a lot of businesses. I've talked to like retail stores and stuff, and it was difficult for them, of course. But was that really hard on your business?
We were so lucky because we were considered an emergency service provider because we have to be able to service our customers. Otherwise, we've, got some life safety issues. Mm-hmm. So we were able to continue working, thank goodness. But we did have some issues because sometimes some of our customers weren't willing to let people in their buildings. Some of the larger industrial facilities, they had new rules, and we really had to just change the way we did things quite a bit. But for me, my biggest goal was to make sure we didn't have to lay off anyone. We mm-hmm. wanted to keep going and make sure everybody was safe and secure with their job, and we were able to do that, and I'm so thankful. It just took some creativity, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know a lot of people probably couldn't say that over the last couple of years. So you've been doing this for a couple of years. It's a family thing. You've probably been around it your whole life.
Yes.
What did you do before you took over the business?
So it was a family business, and I have been around it, and I spent a lot of time with my dad when I was a little girl. I mean, I remember... when it was kind of more of a one-man show, I remember having to get up and go with him in the middle of the night to a service call. And that kind of led me to say, I don't want any part of this. And so I went to Eastern, got my master's degree from there. And so I thought teaching was the way to go. So I taught at Lakeland, I've taught at Eastern and online. And I did that for about 10 years. And then I switched gears completely and went into real estate. And that was a great time. I loved the real estate opportunities, but
Were you into real estate like as an agent or as an
yes.
investor?
No, as an agent.
Okay.
So that was, I'm just one of those people. I like to walk in people's houses and see all the great things. And so that was a lot of fun. And it, it was kind of, it was kind of ironic, I guess, how it happened. My dad, he's like, why don't you pursue real estate? You love this. And I was like, okay. And I did. And through that, I met some mentors and I met some excellent people who were able to really stand by me when he passed and help me, I guess, get a leg up into this business. And, if I hadn't have met those people through his encouragement, it would have been a lot harder.
Okay. That's interesting. So you've lived here your whole life, right?
Yes.
If you're laying out these things, you probably graduated from Mattoon High School, Lakeland, teaching at Lakeland College, going to Eastern. What's your favorite part of Central Illinois?
Well, I'm going to say the weather because you can have all 4 seasons in one day.
Never heard that before.
No, not being a Central Illinoisan. Honestly, I love the smaller town. We've got it great here. We're just big enough. We have some nicer restaurants, but it's not so crazy. And I know this sounds completely silly, but I love the views. I love looking out over the cornfield sunset. It's beautiful.
I'm going to tell myself here, I am not from here. I grew up in New England, in New Hampshire, and I lived in 2 cities that have both been named the nicest place in America to live by Forbes magazine.
Oh, wow.
And the interesting thing when that happened is that almost everybody I went to high school with moved away because it's just such an expensive place to live. It's a wonderful, beautiful place to live, but it's just very expensive when you're first starting out. And we ended up here in Mattoon about 10 years ago. And when I first came here, I called my mom and I was like, I feel like we moved to the moon. Because it was right after the corn came down and it was just kind of dark and barren. But it's grown on me. I love here. I can't imagine raising my kids anywhere else. And I totally understand what you're saying about it being just big enough, but not, crazy. Yeah. Let me ask you just some questions about your business for other business owners. If somebody wanted to get into the security business, what would they need? Is that even possible?
So I was having a conversation with my operations manager when we were talking about this, and he said, "Tell them they need a therapist." So, but seriously, we actually are strictly regulated by the state of Illinois, and so we have to be licensed. So anybody who installs security, fire, or closed-circuit television cameras have to be licensed with the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. That's a big mouthful, but they are pretty serious about it, and it's a big, nasty test that you have to get through. Uh-huh. And then every employee has to be, it's called perked by the state of Illinois, and that is basically a pretty stringent background test that says you don't have a criminal past. We trust you that you're going to be going into people's homes, businesses with sensitive information. So I think that if I was looking to start a security business, that would be the one thing people don't really realize is it is actually very difficult to get that licensing and to get your employees, I guess, to meet that standard.
Right.
Because that is difficult.
I only know one other person in the security business and they're in another state, and it's a much less regulated state.
Yes.
And they worked for somebody for probably 15 years before they went off on their own. So I can't imagine the overhead and the difficulty of getting all that stuff to get started. How many employees do you have?
Right now we have 14 full-time and 1 part-time.
Okay. Good number. What about marketing? Like, how do you get new customers?
Okay, so that's interesting. My dad was very adamant that he wanted our work to speak for itself. And so we rely solely on word of mouth. We really don't advertise. Now, we do, I guess, in a roundabout way, because we do support a lot of sports teams
Uh-huh.
in the community, things like that. So our name is out there, but we really don't make a push for that. We rely on,
Just
the good word.
100% on on
Yep,
word of mouth. Wow.
absolutely.
So are you doing anything online? I guess not. If you
We have our website,
uh-huh.
that our clients can go to, but that's really about it. We're working on creating a new client portal, which is going to be really nice. Where they can access everything online without having to call in if they don't want to. But yeah, for the most part, we just we rely on that.
Let me ask you one other question. And forgive me, this was not on the list that I gave you, but I
Uh-oh.
think you'll like it anyways. There's so many options out there right now online. There's so many different like startups and stuff
Sure.
that are in the same kind of field. You can go to Home Depot and there's all kinds of do-it-yourself options. What is it about detection security that gives people extra peace of mind?
So, in talking about the DIY stuff, because there's a lot of different ways you can come about that. You can go to Home Depot. You can order it from some of the bigger named companies, like national brands. They'll send you a package. They'll walk you through how to do it. But what really sets us apart, there's three things. One is our service. We are extremely committed to service. We guarantee that if you have an issue, we will be able to provide that service the same day or the next day. And that is something that most people cannot say. So we have same day, next day service, and that's guaranteed. We also have 24-hour access to a technician at all times. So if you have a problem and it's 2 a.m, when you call in, you're going to get somebody. He may not be happy, but you're going to get somebody to talk to, and 9 times out of 10, they can walk you through the issue without ever having to come out and making a service call. So service is big for us. 2 is we do not install, I guess, what you would call like DIY grade equipment for any of our customers, residential either. We use commercial grade products all the time. So the same system that you are getting in your residential home is commercial grade. Obviously it's made for your home, but it's not junk. It's not going to break, and it's definitely not the cheap stuff that you could pick up on Amazon. And then the third thing is we have a monitoring service. And so when you have us come install a system, you are going to be monitored 24/7 through a central station. So if the smoke alarm goes off in the hallway, somebody's going to call and say, hey, we have this fire alarm going off. We're sending the fire department. Or, hey, your sump pump alarm went off. Is everything okay? So you've always got that person checking in on you that's monitoring it.
Okay. I knew that you'd have a good answer to that question. I kind of think of it like I went through a period 7 or 8 years ago where I was trying to save money on my cell phone. And I went with one of these, I'm not going to name it, but I went with one of these cell phone carriers that promised to be low dollar, and it was a lot cheaper than what I was paying for. And it was terrible. Like the first time something broke, you called service, and you were obviously talking to people in other countries, and they were, it was like, I know more about phones than you do. Like,
yeah.
And the service was spotty, and it was like at one point you're just like, okay, this is important to me, and I'm going to find somebody that I can go to locally and get answers and get good support, and I don't care what it costs. Service is worth paying for, I think. So, especially when it's local. All right, let me move on to some final questions here, and you can answer these however you want. What's the hardest thing that you've had to deal with in the 2 years with the business? You mentioned COVID. It's probably
Sure.
it,
right? You could throw a dart at a lot of things and and hit, but COVID was definitely difficult. But I would say that the biggest challenge for me was my dad was wrapping up a 45-year career, and he was comfortable where he was at, and for me then to take over, we had to proverbially pivot the ship, because now it's not time to retire. Now it's time to continue on. And so that has been a challenge, catching up with some technology, catching up with, best practices, and also, I guess, learning my way. My dad and I are very different people. And so taking a different management approach and COVID.
And COVID.
In the midst of COVID.
Yes.
But but it's been good. It's a challenge accepted, we'll say.
I think I understand. What does success look like for you in your business?
For me, I try to live and run my business based off of Christian principles, quite truthfully. And we are here for our clients, and we are here for our community and our employees. And I look at all three of those things equally important. They have to all be cared for. And so I look at them and I say, what can I be doing to be better for my employees? How can I make their lives better? How can I serve my clients? And how can I serve the community? So for me, success looks like keeping all of my employees happy, and that their needs are met, that they are not they're not wanting for something, that my clients are well taken care of and they're safe and secure. And finally, that we are able to give back to the community, because it's very important that whatever benefits that we have, we need to give that back. And so if I'm able to do that, I consider that successful.
Awesome. If you could give a new business owner one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
Well, I will say the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten is to hire to your weaknesses. I'm a perfectionist by nature, and it's tough when I have to say, I don't know how to do this thing. So I have built an excellent team of people, both within our organization and outside of the organization, that have strengths that I don't have. The accountant, the financial advisor, the attorneys, to even in-house my operations manager. These people have been critical. And some people, especially those with that entrepreneurial spirit, they think I can do it all. But you know what? It's okay that you can't. So hire to your weaknesses and just put those good people around you, and let your strengths shine, but let theirs too.
Awesome. Any book recommendations?
Okay, well, I don't have some great self-help book or anything, but I am an Agatha Christie junkie. So anything Agatha Christie, and you can't go wrong.
Awesome. Is Agatha Christie like the Murder on the Orient Express?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right. I can tell you about the movies, but I don't know about the books. I haven't read any. I should.
Oh, they're great.
I love to read.
Yep.
How can we find out more about your business?
Well, we do have a website. It's detectionsecurity.net. But you can also give us a call, stop by. We'd love to talk to you. We'll be happy to tell you, but there is some things on our website too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.